What's up, guys? This is Brandon with Hifi. Thanks for being back on the channel. Today is going to be a fun episode, um, talking all about what it's been like these past 3 years. In a couple days, we're celebrating 3 years that we've been here in Hawaii, my family and I. And today, I'm going to talk about a little bit of a retrospective on what it's been like looking for records here, kind of the process about it, a bunch of fun stories that I've had. It's going to be a longer episode, but hopefully should be really entertaining and maybe a little insightful for all of you guys in some way or another. Hope you enjoy. So I got some notes here so I don't go too far off track. So it's going to be a few, I kind of separated them in tips, and I have a bunch of records to show you guys. I'll try not to be too detailed, but I have 7 tips here, and the first, the first 5 are directly about how to look for records in a new place or just the place maybe you live in. Just guides or tips on how to find records. Doesn't have to be jazz records, but in my case, that's what I've been looking for. So these tips have been useful. Some of them are common sense. Some of them are maybe things that you haven't thought about. And the last 2 tips are more of a personal tips on more of like record collecting as a whole. I don't know, it's not all of you guys follow me on Instagram, but we did have we welcomed a new baby boy into our family a few weeks ago, so I'm a little tired. But I've been on paternity leave, and I've just been thinking about a lot of stuff, and I've really been wanting to make this video because I think it's really important. Number one, to document kind of the journey it's been for me personally, and yeah, just share with you guys. So thank you all for the new subscriptions, people who are following the page and engaging in the comments and sending me messages. I really appreciate it. Keep them coming and share these videos if you think they're worth sharing. So yeah, my purpose of this video is to document the journey it's been for me. And you know, it's not my intention to blow up any spots here on Hawaii because it is slim pickings for the most part. So I'll try to be intentionally vague at times, but if I do mention a shop, it's because you could just look it up yourself. So yeah, I guess we'll get on to it. So tip number 1, when you're looking for records, any kind of records in a new environment or somewhere you're unfamiliar. Well, actually, let me backtrack a little bit. Personally, when I moved here to Hawaii, I was very hesitant to move for a very simple reason of I didn't know if I was gonna be able to find records. And that sounds stupid, and that's just me being very vulnerable and sharing that with you guys. But I looked up the shops that were available, and there was like 3 record shops in the whole island of Oahu, and I was like, oh my gosh! Like I came from growing up in the Bay Area, record shopping all the way from high school, middle school on, and you know, in the Bay Area, you know, you're within an hour's drive of maybe 50 plus record shops easily, and if not designated record shops, you know, places to get records. So it was a big shift for me, and I've learned a lot having that not be the case where I'm at now, and all these other avenues that I've found are things that might benefit you guys too. So yeah, suffice to say, I have found success here. Maybe not, by and large, not the volume that I might have encountered. Maybe not as much time dedicated to looking for records, which may have been the case whether I was here or back in California. But yeah, so let's get into it. So number 1, obvious tip is if you're going to a new place, support your local shops. See what's out there. When I moved here, I mentioned there was 3 record shops available, and I'll kind of talk about them a little bit. Number 1 is Hungry Ear. Hungrier has a really cool location in Kakako. A lot of cool shops around there, and they have um, a lot of good. They do a really good job of stocking new reissues. They have a heavy selection of new reissues, all kinds of genres, um, and they take they buy used vinyl too. They have a pretty decent sized jazz section. Um, but they take records that are in better condition, like VG plus, um, and that's typically kind of what they buy, and that's kind of their brand, and that's totally cool. But you typically won't find like a lot of like older dusty pressings that are in like VG ish condition. But the first record I got, probably the first good jazz record I got here on Island was this record. And if you go, a lot of these records are going to be on my Instagram because I've been posting them as I've gotten them. But this is Archie Shepp and Horace Parlan, Going Home on Steeplechase. This is an original that I got for maybe 20 bucks or so. Amazing record. And if you look back at my Instagram, I posted this record and I talked about Horace Parlan being one of my favorite piano players, blah, blah, blah. But this is one of the first good ones. I'm going to try and go fast because there's a lot of records and a lot of stories to talk about. The second main record shop was right across the street from Hungry Ear, and that would be Ideas. And about 3 weeks ago or so, they actually closed down, which is super sad, but I've heard that they are coming back in a new location, hopefully. So crossing our fingers for that. So, across the street would be where you'd find the old dusty, not as curated, kind of random hodgepodge. Idea sells everything from like comic books to like, I think they have like board games and like CDs and trading cards, and it's kind of random in there, but you can find some gems every now and then. One that I found was this. This is called Montage on Savoy. It's an original. One day I came in and they had a collection. I could tell they had a collection because they had a lot of good stuff, and I was like, oh man! And this is one I came away with. Eddie Burt is listed as leader on this, but you have Hank Jones, Donald Byrd, Paul Chambers, Kenny Clark. Really cool compilation album. And then the last record shop here on Island, on Oahu, is Aloha Got Soul. And Aloha Got Soul is a really dope record shop, definitely the smallest of the three, ran by a guy named Roger and Oliver and Max. Help him out there as well. Shout out to those guys. But they're also a record label. They're heavily into Hawaiian music, re-releasing, repressing Hawaiian music, getting in touch with the artist, gathering community, and doing all kinds of events. So they're an amazing shop. They have a really good online presence. They post stuff on YouTube. So they're doing a great job. They get some cool jazz every now and then. They get a lot of newer stuff, like 70s and 80s jazz, but every now and then they'll get some older stuff. This is the one record in this bunch that is not a quote unquote traditional jazz record, but this was one that I got from them that I was super stoked on. This is Shuggie Hodis, Information original, pressing on Epic, that I got from them at a really good price. So I was stoked. Yeah, shout out to them for that. Another one I found from them that I posted recently on Instagram was Carl's Blues. This is the Curtis Counts. Was it Quintet? I forget. Quintet, yeah. Super dope album. Shout out to Aloha Got Soul. So, after checking out what Oahu had to offer, I'll go into other things that I saw on Island, obviously, but talking about the shops here, I had the opportunity to go to the Big Island, Kauai, and Maui, looking at what they had to offer there in terms of record shops, and went thrifting there and all these things too. But the main record shops, the main island I like to go to dig for like jazz records at a shop would be the Big Island. Hawaii has two main shops. Still Life, on the Hilo side, is a really cool small family run shop, and they get some cool stuff. I found a couple records there. Um, I'll just show you two of them that I got at two different times. Go figure, they're both by Phineas Newborn Jr. This is an amazing one that's been re-released recently, and I think this was earlier than this one, but this one's on Atlantic, this one's on Contemporary, but really good stuff. Great prices at Still Life, super good guys running it, and love going there. You'll find all kinds of stuff there. And then more recently, there's been another place that's opened up called Ulia Records, and Ulia, I think that's how you say it, Ulia or Ulia. They get some cool jazz in there too, and that's it's a newer shop. And when I first went there, I picked this up, and I found this for, I want to say like $20 or something, and it was $15, and it wasn't in great shape. I cleaned it up. Plays okay like VG, but I mean these OG monos are super cool and they sound great. I think this is an original, New York, maybe second pressing, but shout out to Ulia. And another one I picked up from them was this. This is first stereo repress. Awesome record. Yeah, so that kind of sums up the shops that I've been to on the different islands. And you know, it being an island, small amount of people, you don't get a whole lot of turnover. So it's not like these places are restocking every day. So you go in there, you talk to the folks. You don't always have to buy something, right? Just going in there and supporting and making connections is enough. And that leads me to my second tip, which is make friends. Simple as that. When you go to record shops and when you talk to people about record shops, be friendly. Tell people what you're into. Be open and accepting to what other people are into, because not everyone's looking for jazz like you. Not everyone's looking for that 70s punk rock album that you are dying to have. Like, people have different interests, and just make friends, talk to people, because you never know what will happen when you make friends. So when I was going to Hungry Ear a lot, I started chopping up with Christian, which is one of the guys who works there, and we found out that we have a lot of similar tastes in music. He's a younger guy, also like very into jazz records, and we were talking one day, and I had picked up this record that I knew he would probably like based on our conversation, and I just gave it to him because I had two of them, and I was like, dude, just take this. Like, I think you'd really like it. And like maybe even that same day or like soon after, he hit me up and was like, hey, I want to give you this. Don't leave the area. And he just happened to have this record on him, and this is another record I've talked about on this channel, but this is an original Three Sounds record, probably my favorite Three Sounds recording. He just gave this to me, and it was like a little trade that I didn't really ask for, but awesome. It's what happens when you make friends. And when I saw him at one of the record swap events, and he sold me this one. This is an original Blue Note on Liberty. Yeah, the original is on Liberty, but sold this to me for like $40, and steal of a deal. It has its issues. It's not the best sounding copy, but still, to have this for that price was incredible. Another example of just making friends, Christian introduced me to someone who lives in my area, and I went over to his house one day. We started talking, and he gave me a couple records. We had a little exchange, and I came away with this really interesting and cool record I'd never seen before that I want to feature on my Instagram at some point. But I'm a hope on Hi-Fi Jazz, and I've done like a kind of a deeper dive on Hi-Fi Jazz. It's an interesting label. There's not a whole lot on there, but another cool one. That's what happens when you make friends. So this tip number 2 kind of segues into tip number 3, which is, I already kind of mentioned it, but just be open to others. Don't be afraid to let people know that you're into records. I talk to my coworkers probably more than they care to hear about the records that I find, the stuff I'm into, um, deals I get, or things that I sell. And I'm always just talking about records. And my coworkers all know that I'm into this. Um, so one day, my coworker Jim was like, "Hey, there's a shuttle driver at the hospital I work at, and he's really into jazz. You should talk to him." So he described what he looked like, and I was like, "Yeah, I think I know who you're talking about." So I one day I parked my moped. I went to the shuttle, introduced myself to the driver that matched the description that Jim gave me, and we just started talking. I found out a lot about his life. He's an older gentleman. He's lived in Hawaii for 30 plus years, um, and into jazz records. And we started emailing. We just started talking, getting to know each other. And I would see him when I come into work, see him around the hospital here and there when he's on his break. But one day he was like, "Hey man, Brandon, I want to give you some records that I'm not using," and he told me the story about why he's not using his system anymore, blah, blah, blah. But one day he gave me a bag full of like 15 or 16 records. And I was like, "Hey, like, this is awesome. Like, what do you want for this?" And he's like, just take it. Like, it's yours. I don't use them, and I want somebody to have them. And here's 3 records that I gave me. Ron Carter, Spanish Blue on CTI, a cool one. And these 2 Miles Davis records. They're later pressings, but on the Columbia red and yellow label. But awesome records that I got for nothing, just for being friendly and making friends with someone. That's what happens when you make friends and you're open to just, that happened from a connection that I made from a buddy, from my coworker Jim. And I made a new friend in the process. And then I have another coworker named Winston. Winston, he has some records. He's not like a record collector by any means, but he loves to thrift. He goes thrifting for clothes, shoes, whatever. Like, he just loves to thrift, and he goes to all the thrift stores. It's like his hobby, and he's kind of like a scout for me now. Like, when he goes to a a Savers or a Goodwill or a Salvation Army, he'll text me like, "Oh, Brandon, you gotta hit up Goodwill on Veritania. They got choke right now." And I'm like, "Okay." He'll send me a picture sometimes. So one time, I walked into he told me to go to Goodwill, and I walked in, and I dug through a bunch of records, and it wasn't a crazy score or anything, but I found this original on Muse for $1. Phil Woods, Jackie Byard, Richard Davis, and Alan Dawson. This is a cool group because it's basically the Booker Irvin quartet with Phil Woods instead. So amazing lineup, amazing rhythm section. A cool one on Muse that you should check out. Doesn't go for crazy money, but usually more than $1. So that was my tip number 3, was be open to others and good things happen, right? Be friendly, be open, be open to others. Tip 4 is where it gets really interesting. How am I doing on time? Okay, I'll try to hurry this up. Tip 4. Hold on. Tip 4, be intentionally curious. This is the one that gets me in trouble. This is the one where I start to go a little crazy, but also the one where I've scored the best. Go to thrift shops. Go to shops you've never been to before. Be curious and be like, does that place have records? Maybe, let's check. If you have the time, within reason. But I found a thrift shop here in Oahu, and I had been there a couple of times. I saw they had records, and one time I walked in, they had like a Cal Jada record, like an Errol Garner. I was like, okay, they're getting some jazz now. Like, that's cool. Went back another time, and I popped in and I found this for $20. It's an original on Columbia. 6i. amazing record. I think I posted this. Yeah, I posted this on my Instagram as well. Um, Found it for an amazing deal just because I was being curious one day and found it. Um, when I was checking out um, a place that I thought would have records on another island, I will not say where. um, I didn't find what I was looking for at the place I intended to go to, but I went back to my car and saw that there was a thrift shop right by the car. And I asked my wife, I was like, hey, can I just pop in here real quick? She's like, yeah, go ahead. I walk in, it's like two floors. And I see this younger guy at the counter. There's some records. I'm like, oh, cool. So I start digging. It's a lot of rock, a lot of Hawaiian, Elvis, etc. And I'm like, oh, okay. He's like, oh, there's a bunch more upstairs if you're into records. Like, oh, awesome. March on upstairs. And there's like a little bookshelf and there's some records. And I immediately see like some jazz records. They had like Bags Groove, what was that, Milt Jackson, that red, yellow, and white, and Miles Davis Prestige album. I was like, ooh, check that out. It was in like terrible condition. I was like, okay, I'm not even, like scratches everywhere, like maybe inaudible. And I was like, okay, no. But I started digging a little bit more, and I saw like 3 records that I wanted, and I just laid them out. I was like, hey, what do you want for these? There's no prices on them, and he basically quoted me like way high prices for the first 2, and then the third one, he's like, oh, you can take that one for $20. And it was this Eric Dolphy, Out to Lunch. I think this is like a first, what is it? First mono repress. No P, but this is a valuable record that I got for $20 at a thrift shop. Just going for it. So, you know, it's these little events, these little things where I was like, okay, there's definitely jazz records on this island. You just have to look for them. And these, every time that I would hit, I'd be like, oh man, like it'll just be like a little jolt of like hope and like inspiration and like, I don't know, like juice. um, but continue to be curious. I went to like a high school fair event thing like, randomly with my family, and I saw this little tent, and I was like, I told my wife, I was like, babe, I bet there's records in there. Like, give me 10 minutes. She's like, oh my gosh. She's like rolling her eyes. I'm like, please, let me just run. She's like, yeah, go ahead. I'm running there. I'm looking around. There's like old antiques and random crap, and I'm like looking around, and I don't see anything. I turn the corner and I see like records like kind of like scattered on a table. I was like, oh yes. So I'm looking around. I found 2 records. They were these: Art Farmer Crawl Space and Gabber Jabo High Contrast. Both artists that I love, and I took them to the. There's no prices on them, so I took them to the counter, and there was like a kid, like some high school kid, doing the register. Is like, how much? He's like asking his friend in the back, how much are these? His friend doesn't know. He's like, oh, $2 each. So I got those for $2. So that was an example of me being intentionally curious and just going for it, and good things happen. Couple more. So I'm on Facebook Marketplace an unhealthy amount. I know that. My family knows that. And yeah, I mean, one day I saw a listing on Facebook Marketplace, and it said something jazz records, and it had a couple pictures. It was like a Paul Horn album, like Larry Coryell, some like, you know, really like newer like Duke Ellington pressing, and then some Monk, like that bluish purple, like really tacky looking label release, whatever. But it was a Monk record. I was like, oh, maybe there's some stuff here. And there was something in the listing about how there was like maybe like 40 to 50 plus jazz records. And I was like, okay, well, it's worth a shot. So I hit up the lady on Facebook Marketplace. I didn't hear back for like 2 days. So I'm like, okay, it's probably a wash. Somebody picked it up. Maybe there was nothing, whatever. I was over it. But she texts me, or she Facebook messages me and says, hey, you know, no one's come by yet. Sorry, I've been busy. why don't you come by tomorrow morning if you're free? And I was free that morning. So I went with my family, drove to Kailua, and I walked to this house, and they're cleaning up this house. It's like a mother and her daughter, and they're cleaning up this house. They're moving, and she's like, "Oh, the records are in the back. Go check them out." Walk to the back. It's like a little smaller, kitchen area, and there's stacks of records, maybe like stacks of 50, maybe like 8 or 9 stacks of 50, and they're kind of separated by genre. So she's like, "Oh, the jazz is over there, the rock's over here, blah blah blah. Like, just take a look." So I start flipping. I was like, "Okay, let's see what we have." No expectations. Start flipping. Oh, put that aside. Flip. Oh, put that aside. Flip. Oh, and I'm just like, whoa, there's some stuff here. So I pick up a stack of records. I went through all the records. I got maybe 21 or 22 jazz records and like 3 or 4 like funk soul records. So I put them all together, put them on the table. I'm like, "This is what I'm interested in. What would you like for these?" And she tells me, "I was thinking $5 a pop." And I was like, "Okay, I can do that, sure." Trying to hide my emotions. I will show you, I think I picked out 10 records or so that I got from that bunch, and just an amazing, the second best score of my life. And both of these scores have happened here on Oahu. If you want to know the best score that I've ever had, you can look at my older YouTube video. I'm holding a blurred out album cover, and that will be an awesome story for you. But let's show these records. Some of them are the same artist, and it's really, side note, it's really cool when you find people's record collections, because it's like you like get to know that person and what they're into, and when their interests kind of resonate with yours, it's just kind of magical. 2 records, Richard Davis, Cobblestone and Muse, both original, $5 each. I'm just gonna go fast. An original Blue Note, McCoy Tyner on United Artists. This was a Black Bee. This is a placeholder. This is a different copy that I've had since, but found a Black Bee there. Original. Original. I love this record. I think I posted this on my IG as well. Original mono, $5. What else do we have? Amazing Bill Evans record. If you're not familiar with this, it's an amazing recording. Beautiful, beautiful trio record. Just an amazing, good audiophile recording. Check this one out. I love this record. It's like the chillest, nicest record ever. Posted this on Instagram. This is, I forget, I think this one's an original too. Crazy. Oh yeah, fun fact of this, this one, speaking of my son, was recorded on October 4th and October 6th. My son and I, my son's the 4th, I'm the 6th. So this is our little shared birthday album. And I got it for $5. And the last one, the banger, an original mono. The cover was terrible when I got it. It had this crazy kind of sticky stuff on it that I had to use like lighter fluid oil to get rid of, and all kinds of stuff. It got a little better, but the cover is not great, but it plays really nicely. So that was a great find, all from being curious and being on Facebook Marketplace. Yeah, let's keep going. So one time, also on Facebook Marketplace, I saw there was an estate sale, and it was like 1,000+ records, like need gone, moving, something, blah 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 blah. And I didn't have the car for the day, and it was all the way by Aloha Stadium, and I'm here in town. So I drove my moped like 30 minutes plus to Aloha Stadium area, even further. Went to this estate sale and dug through like 400 records. Took me like 30 minutes. I was like, I didn't have a lot of time. I got one record, and it was $5, and it was this Pepper Adams Encounter. Super cool record. Lineup is awesome. Zoot Sims, Tommy Flanagan, Ron Carter, and Elvin Jones, and Pepper Adams. $5. Stay curious, my friends. And then the last story I have for being curious is I was at the swap meet. Speaking of the Aloha swap meet, I was at the swap meet and I've never scored. I'll just put that out there. I've never scored at the Aloha swap meet. But I saw this guy was selling records out of his trunk. Maybe I've heard people scoring at the swap meet, by the way, so don't take my experience as the only experience out there. But this guy was selling records out of his trunk, and it was like a stack of records in a cardboard box, like this big, like filled to the brim. And I was like, oh, cool. So I started to look through the records. They looked like they were for sale. And he's like, whoa, stop, what are you doing? And I was like, oh, I'm sorry. Like, I just was going to take a look. He's like, no, you have to pay me $200 before you look at these records, and then you can have them all. And I'm like, I can't even look at what's in here before I give you $200? Like, no, you have to give me the money first, and then you can look, and you can take what you want. And I'm like, that's absurd. So I was kind of trying to explain to him how ridiculous that was, but I was like, this is a lost cause. But an older gentleman overheard what I was saying. He's like, hey, talk to me over here. So he pulls me aside. Start to have a conversation. He's like, oh, you're into records? And I was like, yeah. He's like, what kind of record are you looking for? I was like, oh, I'm looking for jazz records, mostly, all kinds of stuff, blah, 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 but, mostly jazz. He's like, oh, you should come to my place in Hawai'i. I have thousands of records you can look through. And I'm just like, what? Like, for real? It's like, yeah, come over sometime. Here's my number. Give me a call. This guy doesn't have a cell phone. He doesn't have email. He doesn't even listen to his records. He just has all these random records he's collected for years for the sake of collecting, and doesn't know really how much they're valued at, and just wants to get rid of them. Insane. So I went to his place maybe 2 or 3 times, and it was difficult because he was really unorganized. Took him forever to figure out how much he wanted to sell stuff for, because he, he didn't know what he wanted to give it away for. So it's kind of an interesting situation, but the sweetest guy. And I came away with a couple records from him throughout the times I went there. And these are just a couple that I found. This 5x5 Monk on Riverside. This is like an early repress. And then our Pepper Meets Rhythm section, I think this is like a early repress too, but definitely an upgrade from the OJC that I had. So, and I think these were both under $15, I'm sure. So yeah, be curious. That was tip number 4. That was a long tip. Sorry. Tip number 5 will be a faster one. Go to the events, record fairs, vintage themed events. Any event that records are going to be sold at, go to it. Meet new people, network, talk to people, share your interest, and you find deals, because sometimes people don't know what they have. Like people like us who really study and research records and like know how much a lot of pressings are worth. We don't know. It's impossible to know what everything is worth. But imagine someone who's not really into this music and just comes into these records. There's deals to be had, and opportunities to be had to score on records. So go to the events. If there's records there, go. Friends of the Hawaiian Library throws a sale once a year, and I found out about this because of me being open, whatever tip that was, being open about your interest. My coworker told me about it, and I didn't even know about it after being here for like a year plus. So I went to the soonest one that I could, and I've gotten great records at that event. When I was looking one day at this last time I was there, I was looking flipping through and in the jazz section, I saw like, across from me there was an empty bin, and I saw the back of a record. And if you saw the back of this, would you have known? Well, I guess you can kind of read it, but I saw the back of this, and I kind of casually walked around the table and picked it up. This is an original Gabo Jabo Dreams that I got for like $5 at that event. So I mean, go to the event. You never know. I also got this for the event. This is a original Jocko promo that I got there. This one was more expensive, but an original I got at that event as well. 6i. And then the last two records are ones that I've got at record fairs. Both of these were priced really well, but you know, originals. Wayne Shorter's Schizophrenia and Red Garland's Piano, both records that I love dearly. So I've scored a lot. You know, you saw it was like 30 plus records that I've got in the past 3 years, and maybe I would have more records if I was back home, but I don't know if I'd have as fun of a time doing it. Probably be a lot more in the shops, and which is fine. More record fairs, but I mean, it's been fun. It's been a lot of fun, and there's definitely records here, and I think there's a lot more to be had here in Hawaii. Couple tips. I'll try to wrap up. Oh my gosh, almost at 40 minutes. So these are all kind of personal points, but tip number 6, when you're collecting records, put people before the records, before material items. And this is something that I continue to work on in myself, being a family man. I have a wife and children, and it's really easy to kind of just be tunnel vision and to, you know, just be hungry and on this treasure hunt and on this, you know, just constantly trying to find deals and find great records and discover new music. And it's addicting. It's seriously addicting. And put your family first, put your friends first, put your responsibilities first. Don't let this record stuff take over. Don't let it become something don't let it become something negative. Leave it as a positive thing in your life, and don't overdo it, because you can overdo it. If you've watched Vinyl, the documentary, you'll know what it means to overdo it. Other thing about putting people first is be respectful at these events, be respectful to other people's interests. And when you're selling, try not to gouge people. When I go into shops and I see prices that are like the same as Discogs or more, I'm like, what is the purpose of the shop? I could just buy this online. Like, do it for the community, you know. And I'll kind of talk about this in the next point, but do it for the community, and don't always try to make a buck. Like, we've all had people who have given us deals, and whether intentionally or not, and try to pay it forward and extend that when you can. I know that when you're selling stuff, people need to make money, and there's different reasons people sell stuff. So I'm not here to judge, but if you have the opportunity to help someone out, try to, because it all comes around. There's this KUSF record swap that they do in San Francisco, and one time I was at, I was pretty much done for the day, but this guy came like an hour and a half late. This like surfer looking dude, like long blonde hair, popped up his tent or popped up his table, super small, had a crate of records, like all like heat, like fire jazz, like, you know, selling for good prices, but like more than I was willing to spend at that point of the day. And I was flipping. I was like, dude, you got some killer stuff. He's like, yeah, man, blah, blah, appreciate that. So I pick up, it's no jacket. It's Larry Young's Unity, an original pressing, original stereo, listed for $40. And it says clean in big letters, clean, $40. And I'm like, bro, what are you doing selling this for so cheap? Like, what's the deal with this? He's like, oh yeah, I kind of just came up on this randomly. He's like, oh, just grab it, man. He's like, I'm doing it for the culture. And I'll always remember that guy, because that's a reminder to me to do it for the culture and to help people out when you can. So that's tip number 6, is put people before the records. Tip number 7, keep the faith, enjoy the music. Try not to get too caught up in the monetary value of your records. I know that I was talking a lot about numbers here, what I bought the records for, what they're worth. That's just for you guys. But when it comes to your personal viewpoint, your perspective, again, this is personal. I'm not here to judge. I'm just kind of sharing things that I have in my heart and on my chest. We all love to score, and there's obviously this big treasure hunting addiction I talked about, but try not to let the clout or the status of your collection dictate your buying or dictate your posting. Like, post and share records that you truly love, not because they're worth X amount of money and you got it for this. Like, try to, if you're just a collector and that's your thing, that's fine. But I mean, if you're searching for a real connection to music, in my opinion, that's not how you should go about it. Like, share stuff that, that you fall in love with, that maybe isn't as popular, or maybe is quote unquote cheap heat. I love these cheap heat jazz records that are out, like record YouTube videos that people post. Like, I love that because you can tell these people are passionate about records that aren't worth that much money. They're just great music, and this person found it somewhere or another, and is sharing it with you. So, just make sure you're doing things for the right reasons and enjoy the music. Connect to the music. That's what it's there for. And I think that this is my last tip, by the way. But I think that this perspective really opens you up to a greater understanding of music and a greater appreciation for what the world has to offer you, and it doesn't pigeonhole you into 50s and 60s jazz. And that's my main interest. That's the things I'm most wanting to collect. But being here in Hawaii, I've really ventured out into different genres, different eras. Looking at a lot of 70s and 80s stuff, and it's really opened up my perspective and allowed me to appreciate this music a lot more. I'm thankful for people like Janos that I've mentioned on this channel, people like John DeVore. Their YouTube channels talk about all kinds of records, a lot of classical and older music that I would have never heard of or appreciated before. And a lot of these things are like pennies, like on Discogs are like $4 or $5, and it's like sometimes you can't even buy them because they're so cheap on Discogs. Like, you have to buy multiple things for the seller to allow you to buy it. But I found amazing records for pennies, for nothing, and it's just allowed me to appreciate more, and it's giving me more stuff to throw out my system and to hear what happens with that. Yeah, so there's a lot of records to go around. And the last thing I'll say is that I make this analogy to getting tattoos, and this is me personally again. If you have a tattoo, you get a tattoo, maybe you get 2, maybe you get 3, you likely want more. And there's this permanency of tattoos, right? And it's so ironic because people who get tattoos, I'm speaking from my perspective, sometimes I want a tattoo now and I want it now, and I really have this idea, I really want this tattoo, and I fail to remember sometimes that you have your whole life to get this tattoo. You have your whole life. It's going to be on your body forever, right? So you can get it now, or you can get it when you're 50, and you can appreciate it at different points in your life. So just try to remember that, if everything works out, we have a lifetime of collecting, and there's years and years and years of records and scores and come ups to be had. And, there's lots of time. Hopefully, we never know. Tomorrow's not promised, but, try to appreciate what you have. Be patient and genuinely celebrate the discoveries of others and celebrate your own discoveries, because that's what this is all about. Let it be about the music. Try not to focus too much about the other stuff. And I wish you all the best. Mahalo nui for joining me through this venture. If you listened and paid attention, God bless you, because this is a very long episode, my longest, world record. Cheers and happy collecting, you guys. Aloha.